like in the chat. We will start in just a moment with our webinar, but first, a brief introduction of the Global Solidarity for Peace in Palestine Coalition, which is a coalition of more than 100 international faith-based and civil society organizations from 4 continents representing tens of thousands of citizens worldwide. Since September 2024, we have been gathering for the common purpose of using nonviolent channels and international law and mechanisms to stop the genocide and mass starvation in Gaza, end the occupation of the Palestinian territories, end apartheid, and achieve the full rights and self-determination of Palestinians according to international law. The core steering committee of Global Solidarity for Peace in Palestine meets weekly and to determine the strategies connecting global leaders' grassroots action together. And the lead of our committee are Hania Bitar and Aus Milchem of the Palestinian Youth Association for Leadership and Rights Activation, PLARA. Also, Miguel Alvarez of the Platform for Peace, Democracy, Human Rights and Human Rights in Latin America, Serapaz, Kirsten Muller of Global Exchange, Catherine Hughes Freitag of Solidarity 2020 and beyond, Sean Connor of the International Peace Bureau, and others. So briefly, during the past 18 months, the coalition has carried out the following actions. We launched a global roots action petition, actually 2 petitions and letter writing campaigns urging governments to use UN General Assembly Resolution 377, Uniting for Peace, to stop the genocide and occupation as the Security Council had failed to do so. And also, this is due to the US veto. More than 500,000 people signed. We also met with the Hague Group of UN member states, led by Colombia, South Africa, Venezuela, and others, to push for the introducing of UNGA Resolution 377 before the General Assembly and calling for immediate dispatch of diplomatic protection to Gaza to ensure the flow of humanitarian aid and monitor the ceasefire. We also met with the Office of the UN Secretary General, urging him to use his good offices to implore the General Assembly to stop the genocide and occupation and implement UN resolutions and International Court of Justice rulings. In addition, the coalition has convened a dozen webinars, hearing from Palestinians on the ground and international experts on how to stop the genocide, occupation, and apartheid, now worsening, with the UNGA and United Nations Security Council supporting the so-called Trump Stabilization Plan and so-called Board of Peace, which is a colonial real estate enterprise on steroids aimed at depopulating not only the Gaza Strip of Palestine, but the West Bank, East Jerusalem, of Palestinians, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Israel as well. So thank you all for joining us, and I will pass it now to Hania Bitar of PLARA.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you everybody for joining us this evening, at least according to Palestine time, to be together, to think together, to listen together to developments that are happening in Palestine and in our region, and to really plan together what is really the next wave of action. By now, people who were fasting had their dinner, so sahtain everybody. I hope you are more relaxed and you can drink your coffee or tea and be with us in a more easy mode. But don't take it so easy, because any moment we might hear the sirens go on because of the rockets that are being thrown on us. But don't worry, because we will not be leaving you. We as Palestinians, we don't have shelters or secured rooms to go and hide in. So, we continue whatever we are doing, hoping that we will be safe. So at least, you can count that we will be with you this evening in our webinar. In fact, many people, since it was declared that the genocide or the war had stopped thought that, we reached an ending to the genocide. But unfortunately, those whose eyes are still on Palestine, are still on Gaza, are still on the suffering, realize that the genocide has taken different shapes and forms. And the killing and the suffering continues on a daily basis, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank and Jerusalem as well. So tonight we have voices from Palestine. We have also voices from supporters of the Palestinian cause, supporters of freedom, supporters of peace, and supporters of justice, who have joined us really to give us part of their experience, of their thinking, and of their vision. And we will start our webinar tonight with Dr. Sabri Saydam. Dr. Sabri Saydam actually is a former Palestinian Minister of Education and of Higher Education. He was in his position since 2015 till 2019. And he has actually been the key person in pushing for digitalizing education and technology in Palestinian schools. It is worth mentioning that Dr. Sabri Saydam is actually a technology specialist himself. He has a PhD in telecommunication and electronics engineering. And he's one of the architects of smart education in Palestine, since he promoted initiatives that brought to Palestinian schools coding, tablets, digital platforms. And we as Pialara, actually, we used to enjoy working with the Ministry of Education under his, when he was the minister, because he was really very much open to developmental initiatives and to bring Palestinian school up to the level of other global systems. It's also worth mentioning that Dr. Saydam is a senior member of Fatah and has served on its central committee. We are really pleased to have you with us this evening, Dr. Sabri Saydam, and people are eager to listen to you, to really give us an update on what's the situation in Gaza, what is happening in the West Bank, what are the challenges that our Palestinian Authority is confronting in such critical developments that we are living through these days. So please, the platform is yours. Go ahead.
You are mute, Doctor.
Well, good evening to you all. Good evening, Hania. Thank you for the invitation. Appreciate this invite. And I'm happy to be in the company of many friends and acquaintances. I have to say that at the outset of this meeting, one is keen to see how we can all join hands for the good of the Palestinian people, stop genocide in Palestine and beyond, and also work together towards freedom as the march continues towards liberty and independence. Ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished colleagues, friends, and partners in the struggle for justice, when invited to take part in this meeting, I had planned to talk about one war. By now, there are two wars in the region, and 7 or 8, or maybe even 10 wars around the world, as I lost my self-count of all wars that are happening. All are happening, by the way, under the sleeve of an American president who himself promised humanity no more wars and picked on his predecessor, if you remember, to have allowed some of these wars to erupt, only to see that he himself has decided to change rather the name of the Department of Defense to become the Department of War. And yet he's still demanding to be a Nobel Prize laureate. Quite interesting. When discussing Palestine today, some may feel that it is the story of the near past. It is, in fact, the story of all times. It is the root of what happens in and around the region, if not in and around big parts of this world at large. It is a cause without which a full and final settlement humanity will continue to ache. So it is the cause of that. It is the cause that turned Palestinians into a global tribe fighting for peace from Johannesburg to Moscow and from Santiago to Sydney. For many of us, this tragedy is not abstract, it is personal. Like countless Palestinian families, mine too has suffered profound loss in Gaza, with the loss of around 130 members of my own family. The pain of losing loved ones is something no statistics can capture. Yet, despite this grief, we remain steadfast in our commitment to justice, dignity, and freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, while the world's attention has been heavily focused on Gaza, the West Bank and Jerusalem are experiencing a parallel escalation. Communities are being displaced, villages have been attacked, and settlers' violence has increased dramatically under the protection of the occupying army. Israel is also taking advantage of the broader regional tensions of the war that is in existence, including the dynamics of this war with Iran, to expand its military actions and fulfill its end game of driving Palestinians out of their ancestral land, as much as it also wants to destroy the Palestinian Authority by squeezing its funds and depriving it from the provision of services to ordinary Palestinians. With that, Israel is driving nothing but a total suffocation machine. Yet the situation in Gaza is no better. No peace body has been able to impose any peace. No high commissioner has managed to commission meaningful measures beyond the daily suffering of the Palestinian people. And no administrative committee has proven capable of being able to administer and combat the unfolding humanitarian catastrophe and crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, what needs to change for human dreams and aspirations to be realized is the following. It is the end of occupation. It is the end of occupation. This is the core matter of things, the end of occupation, and also a global Jewish awakening, Israeli and Jewish awakening that forces a change in Israel and drive out the right-wing government in Israel and its doctrine. Let me be frank with you and say that either international law applies equally to all nations and to all peoples, or it loses its meaning entirely. Either the lives of Palestinian children matter everywhere, or the graves of children of Gaza and the West Bank will stand as a permanent indictment of our collective failure. This moment therefore demands more than sympathy. It demands action, political motivation, legal accountability, and sustained international pressure, which you, dear friends, will continue to drive. So to end the violence, protect civilians, and ensure the realization of Palestinian rights. Peace will not come through silence. Justice will not come through indifference. Peace will come when Palestinian people finally live in freedom, dignity, and sovereignty in their own independent state. Until that day, we will collectively endeavor to continue to speak, to advocate, to stand firm in the belief that justice, though delayed, must ultimately be prevailing, inshallah, very soon. I want to conclude my remarks as for now and come back with further answers for any questions the audience may have. I wish to say thank you, Hania, for the sweet introduction, and thank you everyone for being here. It's tough in Ramadan, but I'm glad that you remained adamant to hold this meeting. Shukran.
Thank you, Dr. Sabri. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. And for sure, there will be many questions to come. But from now, start to prepare to tell us something about the situation of Palestine and the Palestinians amidst this war with Iran. So, when we come to the discussions, it would be great to hear the impact of what is happening on us as Palestinians vis-a-vis this war on Iran. Let's go to the next panelist this evening, and our panelist is Mr. Ahmed Al-Aidi, who is from the heart of Gaza. And Ahmed actually is a Palestinian lawyer, researcher, and human rights activist. He works to promote human rights, especially the rights of children and of vulnerable communities. He worked with different organizations that focus on justice, legal, and did legal research and human rights advocacy across the Middle East. We welcome you, Ahmed, and we will be really eager to listen to you, to get updates about the situation in Gaza. What is really happening on a daily basis? We hear about people who get shot and who get killed despite the claims that the genocide has stopped. People are still suffering on different levels, be it health-wise, food-wise, shelter. The cat insists to join the webinar. So just I'm trying to take her down from Malaysia. So it will be really exciting to listen, very important to listen to you, Ahmed. So please go ahead.
Hello, I'm very happy to be with you today in this meeting, in this session. And today I'm here, I'm talking to you from Gaza. And I don't feel that we can describe Gaza as just a catastrophic area. It's maybe the human lab where there's a reformation of dignity, human dignity. I'm not here to tell you about a personal story, but I'm on behalf of a whole generation, young generation, who were never. It wasn't by choice that they were born within a storm. They wanted to be active people, and they're not just victims. People in Gaza, they not only resist biologically, they in depth. Want to maintain the resistance, the survival, and this is where it's that it's not that we're here because and to evade war, but it's so when we see Gaza and we say about what is happening in the international law, the international law as stipulated in the Geneva Convention in 1949, it is based on clear principles, and also there are grave violations for these things like the genocide, the famine, the infrastructure destruction. All these practices are war crimes as stipulated in the Rome Convention. But also under all this, we see another point which is as important. It's the humanitarian element that once that it rejected that we're only victims. The young in Gaza, they don't want to only be labeled as victims. We are more than half of the demographic structure, and these youth are not only numbers, they are the energy that preserves the stability in the societies and the continuity. In Gaza, when we see everything that's happening all at once, that the students are helping out the injured before continuing their studies, or maybe another student who is teaching a younger generation in a tent. They're not only being resistant, they're not only resilient, they're following a new strategy, and they're being innovative, they're trying to be creative, and they are in grave risks. And it's not about destruction of the present, they are confiscating the future. But the Palestinian youth have rejected all this. They are playing three historic roles at the same time. They are trying to preserve the remembrance. They are seeking to protect their communities through relief actions. Also, they're the engineers of the future. They believe in reconstruction. And now when we talk about a whole and of course, this is under all this this leadership that where the youth in Gaza, we can say that it is their way of survival, voluntary work, support networks. And these initiatives are not only reactions, they are clear evidence about the ability of the youth to prove themselves. I'm sorry that I'm not talking about the youth in this war, but it's not only this, but because I'm one of them. Now, when we talk about also the reconstruction of Gaza, it's not only about engineering. We need to rebuild a whole society. The whole society has been destructed, and they can take a decision. So they are able to make the change. And this is and this is that where they can do that justice is not only an idea. And now cities were distracted, but ideas are just there, but the will is there, and students say that they can live under we're not asking for the impossible. It's the laws, it's that need to be stipulated. It's not only this. And what I want to say here, I'm a Palestinian youth. I'm 27 years old. I know what peace means. I know what how it should be lived. I've seen it in films, but I've never seen it in reality. Since the beginning of the war, we've been living in violations of atrocities and violations of laws, but we're still combating for survival, to make it and we demand that all international communities to focus more on what needs to be done in the future to support because those who have led the war wasn't only it wasn't the system in Palestine, it was what we've done. Many humanitarian stories are there, but what I want to say is that we are against the bloodshedding, and we need to live in dignity, in humanity, just like all others around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for your intervention. And I'm sure there will be lots of questions to you on different levels, but really people are eager to really live with you the situation in Gaza nowadays. So we will be, and as Catherine just wrote in the chat, please, anybody who has questions, you can start typing your questions in the chat box so that we can discuss them after we finish with our third speaker. Our third panelist this evening is Anne Wright. Anne Wright is an American diplomat who became a peace activist. Actually, she worked for several years for the US government and as a diplomat in different countries around the world, including Nicaragua, Grenada, Somalia, and many others. But then in 2003, she decided to resign from her job in protest to the Iraqi war. And she became a peace activist working to promote peace and human rights. After 29 years actually serving in the US Army and Army Reserve, eventually becoming even a colonel, she became a peace activist who got arrested multiple times protesting US military policies. Anne Wright, joined the flotilla, and I think it was in 2011, but now she can tell us more about that. But she is famous in many of the interviews conducted with her on talking about the moral courage, where she describes the importance that government officials should resign if they believe a policy is wrong. And she was a live example on that when she resigned. Welcome, Anne, and it will be very interesting to listen to you, not just to know about your peace activism and your flotilla mission in support of Gaza and other just causes around the world, but also because you are, very active in civil disobedience. It's very important to know for future action what is has more impact. Is it peace activism or civil disobedience? So if you can discuss those issues with us, we would really be very appreciative. So welcome, Anne.
Well, thank you, Hania, and thank you to everyone who organized this. First, let me give the apologies for Thiago Avila, a good friend of mine who we've worked with since 2024 on the various flotillas. He is somewhere, I don't know where he is, but he sends his apologies. And I am here to offer some comments on the flotilla. But first, I want to offer my apologies to the people of Palestine in Gaza, the West Bank, for the U.S. bombs that have fallen on them, fired by the Israelis. I also want to offer my apologies to the people of Venezuela, of Iran, of perhaps Cuba in the future for U.S. bombs that are terrorizing the world. We as U.S. citizens are trying to mobilize to get successive administrations to stop this warmongering that they're doing. But it seems like we're not having much success. And as the doctor mentioned, here we have a president that ran on being a peace president, and yet he's the biggest warmonger. Well, not the biggest, but certainly he rivals all the rest of the warmongers that we've had. On your immediate question of what seems to have an effect, whether it be peace activism or going to jail for peace, being a felon for peace, well, and it helps you yourself, and hopefully it gives courage to other people to stand up to the horrible things that our government's doing. But quite honestly, except for a few things, well, we did bring the end of the Vietnam War. I think that was citizen activism. But boy, it's really tough. And when you're standing out in front of the White House day after day after day on whatever issue it is, it seems pretty hopeless. But the hopelessness is staying at home and doing nothing. So I'm a proponent of hit the streets, get out there, be with other people who believe in the same things you do, and certainly believing in we have to end the genocide that's going on for Palestinians, in the ethnic cleansing that's going on in the West Bank, and of course stop this horrific war that the U.S. and Israel is having on Palestine, on Iran. And I'll just share a screen to get to the issues that I'm speaking about. Let's see, we've got that. Okay. Now I'll go over here to start from current slide. Okay. And so I'm going to talk about the Gaza flotilla and go very quickly through a lot of slides, many of which you all probably know. This is a slide from 2008 when we actually had 5 little boats that got into Gaza, miraculously got into Gaza and got out with Palestinians who needed medical treatment, education, things like that. But then after 2000, now let's see if I can get this to move. Oh yeah, okay. After 2008, we we've sailed 37 ships between 2010 and 2025 to bring international attention to the illegal Israeli naval blockade of Gaza. And if you remember in 2010, that's where 10 people were killed, 10 Turkish citizens and one American Turkish citizen, 50 wounded by the Israelis. All the rest of the boats, the rest of 37 of them, have been intercepted in international waters. The participants arrested, taken to Israel against their will, put in Israeli prison, and ultimately deported. But that doesn't stop us. In May of last year, we sailed the Conscience, but the Conscience was bombed in international waters off Malta. We took, and here's a picture of, I mean, this was a massive, massive bombing. It wasn't just a little tiny thing. That didn't stop us. We took the Conscience back to Turkey, had it repaired. In the meantime, in June, we sailed the Madeline, which got a lot of publicity, mainly because there was a young woman on board, a young woman named Greta Thunberg, an environmental activist, but also a Palestinian activist. And she and the other 11 people on board the Madeline got a lot of attention for Gaza, because that's the whole point. The attention these boats bring are to bring attention to the plight of people in Gaza. Later on in, let me turn this thing on. Later on in July, we sailed the Hondola, a small fishing boat that had 20 people on board. Again, stopped in international waters. Then another occurrence, and we're talking about global activism, the global march to Gaza that happened in Egypt and then Tunisia, Libya, where the Egyptian police deported so many people and beat them up too. But that precipitated a lot of people saying, "Wait a minute, we're just not going to stand by and let another country knock us down. We're going to sail some boats too." And we in the Freedom Flotilla Coalition were thrilled that indeed a new organization called the Global Samud Flotilla arose very, very quickly and started sending boats, a total of 46 boats that came from the Global Samud starting in Barcelona. And we will be going back to Barcelona in April of this year for the 2026 Gaza Flotilla. Here is just the rundown of how many boats came from each one of the ports: 22 from Barcelona, 10 from Tunis, 17 from Italy, 4 from Greece, 1 from Libya, 42 boats with 462 participants from over 45 countries. And here's just to show you how much logistics it takes to do this. Going all the way from Barcelona through Tunis, then into Sicily, then off Crete, because storms get in the way, boats break, there are repairs. We need the help of everyone who can help us keep boats on the water, because we firmly believe, even though it's a very expensive thing, but it does bring international attention to the plight of people in Gaza. And here are just some slides that show what it takes for the resources the Israelis have to use to stop these boats, hopefully, are resources that are taken away from killing Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. And here's just some of the names of the boats that we had and what flags we had with them. Here's a picture of the commandos going on board one of the ships, and you can see they have like 10 commandos. And if you have 42 ships, it's a lot of expenditure of resources the Israeli IOF has to spend. And then what happens when people get arrested, taken to Israeli prison, and then brutalized? And we will have to acknowledge that and want to acknowledge that the Israelis in last summer used many of the same horrible techniques on international activists as they've been using on Palestinians for decades. Not the degree that the Palestinians have the violence wreaked on them, but it was the first time really, other than, of course, the assassination, the murder in 2010, but it's the first time we've had a lot of people pretty well beaten up. And here are just some of the photos of the internationals that were on board these planes that were bringing the people back. we had people that came back overland through Jordan, and then air flights that brought them back, and rallies across the world. I happened to be in Istanbul when a lot of the people were coming back from Global Samud, and a rally of over 300,000 people in Istanbul. And that's what we want to portray to all of you all on the call, that there's a lot of stuff that can be done on land to support the flotillas as well as all the other initiatives. We did have a second flotilla after the Samud, and that was the Conscience and the Thousand Madeleines, a total of 92 people that were on the Conscience. And we do training for every boat that leaves. We have to make sure that people understand the dangers that they're under. We put them through nonviolence training to make sure that they are not going to erupt in a way that jeopardizes everyone else. Here's some pictures of the ship, the Conscience ship that had been repaired from the bombing earlier this year, finally setting sail from Otranto, Italy for Gaza. And here are some of the small sailboats with a group called Thousand Madeleines that were on the same thing. We have a crisis center that we had in Istanbul, and we're watching through videos as the boats were boarded and finally brought in. And here's the map of the boats of the second part of the flotilla. So and here's them coming back to Istanbul, and then some of them, and I'll tell you, for Muslim women to go on these boats, it is a real testament to their courage. And here we have some good friends from Malaysia who have been with the flotillas since for a long time. Here's some of the folks that came back through Jordan, and meeting them as they come directly from the jails is really amazing. So our call to action is support all your local Palestinian solidarity actions, attend rallies and marches for Palestine, support the next flotillas, and that will be coming up in April of this year. We hope to have over 100 boats that will sail to break the illegal naval blockade of Gaza, open up a corridor for humanitarian assistance, bring doctors, construction workers, lots of people, and keeping our fingers crossed that we can actually get into Gaza. So that is a thumbnail sketch of what the past has been, and that we look forward to the participation in the Global Samud, the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, or the Thousand Madeleines from people all over the world for the flotillas in 2026. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. Actually, it would be great if you can tell us a little bit more for those people who listen to you and will be interested to join the flotilla. What are the actual steps that could be taken? And also, can you tell us really, like, through all those efforts and activism and, all the torture you've been exposed to and, being in jail and freed, does this help in your mission, in your bringing across the messages and the causes that you stand for, or does it discourage people from joining? So if you can tell us more about those things, please.
Yes. Well, it doesn't discourage anyone from joining the fact that we have not actually gotten on the shores of Gaza. I mean, we have tens of thousands of people that are making applications through both the Global Samud, flotilla.org, or Freedom Flotilla Coalition.org, or Thousand Madeleines. And I'll put in the chat the websites where people can make applications. Now, the real key thing is does it do anything for the people in Gaza? And every time before we have another one of these boats that goes, we always make contact with our colleagues in Gaza saying, would you rather us have fundraisers, try to send money into Gaza, working with those organizations, or do you want us to continue these flotillas? And every time we've gotten the word back, saying the flotillas give us hope that the international community is not forgetting us. Some of the pictures that we've gotten where teachers bring their school kids down to the beach when they know that the boats are approaching, usually not close, anywhere from 40 miles to 60 miles offshore, that we're approaching. The kids come down to the beach. They make sand castles or sand ridings. It provides, we understand, a mechanism for teachers and families to let their families know that there are boats out there. There are people that are willing to risk their lives for them. So that's why we continue it. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and a lot of detractors say, well, you ought to spend your time in different ways. But so far, we have an ever growing number of people that say we think this is important, and the more publicity we can get through the vehicles of the ships, the better it is for Palestine. Thank you.
Great. And can you tell us now that, this has been going on for several years? Like, do you feel that when, you come across the different countries to reach your destination, like we heard recently what happened in Tunisia and then in Belgium, like, do you feel that the countries are becoming more understanding and receptive and making your mission easier, or on the contrary?
On the contrary, the U.S. government is putting extraordinary pressure on all governments to stop any sort of support for the flotillas, to include letting our boats stop in their countries. In 2011, the Greek government was paid off by the Israeli government, and we had 10 ships that were ready to sail in 2011, and the Greek government stopped all of them. The Tunisian government that allowed us to bring ships in last year in 2025, now we've had a skirmish with them, with some of we had a meeting in Tunis over this last week, and some of our folks went down to the port, and there was a confrontation with the police, and so we're evaluating now whether or not the Tunisian government has kind of switched its policy of letting us go in there to pick up more boats, to do repairs and things like that. The Italian government, so far, even though it's got kind of a right-wing government, so far we've been able to move boats from Italy, and we keep our fingers crossed on that. The Spanish government has been very helpful. The Cypriot government, where we moved some boats in 2008, has been very uncooperative. So we really have very few places left in the Mediterranean where we can sail these boats, but we will continue to do it no matter what.
Great. Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you.
Dr. Sabri, I would like actually to get you out of the diplomatic mode a little bit. You are a member of Fatah movement, you've been in the Palestinian government, and you are part of the Palestinian people. And certainly on a daily basis, you listen to people who complain, who are not happy with the kind of the silent mode, the low profile that our Palestinian Authority has taken, not only during the genocide in Gaza, but also now during the escalations between Iran, the US, and Israel. So what is the Palestinian Authority waiting for? Why this silent mode and low profile? Are they like expecting to be embraced later on by the US or other countries? We all know the EU is also, keeping a low profile and silence as well. So if you can really just try to explain and analyze to us what is the position that the Palestinian Authority is undergoing, and what is the way out according to your opinion?
Well, thank you, Hania. I think this is the $1 million question that everybody is asking, and I'm happy that you raised this issue given the fact that America and Israel have certainly taken the collective decision to drive Palestinians out and have used the 7th of October to wage this war against the Palestinians, commit a genocide. And despite all the efforts on your part, on the part of activists around the world, and international community members who decided to align themselves with the Palestinians, and all the voices that have been echoed around the world, there has not been any movement on the front of Israel banning it, curbing its efforts to undermine Palestinians, stop the genocide, and certainly stop their persistent confiscation of Palestinian territory and pushing people out and arming settlers and giving them the means and capabilities and also the legal groundings upon which they launch their attacks upon Palestinians. So maybe the Palestinian Authority, and that I say maybe because I don't speak for the Palestinian Authority, I speak for my party, and I would certainly encourage you to invite a spokesperson on behalf of the Palestinian Authority. But I would like to say that there has been a realization that Israel is on to expedite the expulsion of Palestinians. It has grinded the roads and routes and means of life of the people of Gaza, and nobody, I would say, on the official lines, nobody has been able to combat Israel, nor stand up for Israel, nor in any way combat the American administration's deal that is supporting Israel and the energy it's investing, and also the bullying and lobbying that is taking place in Washington. So maybe the Palestinian Authority did not want in any way to have the same fate in the West Bank as is in Gaza, but also has been armed with the belief that Israel has an open check, as it were, to kill all Palestinians' existence on the land, driving the Palestinian identity out, killing the geography of Palestine by confiscating the territory, and ending the existence of the very Palestinians on their ancestral land. So I would say, moreover, the capabilities, the military capabilities of the Palestinian Authority have been quite confined to police capabilities. So does not have the machines, does not have the capabilities in terms of military equipment, does not have the might that one desires to see any state would have. It is a basic structure that cannot in any way military-wise confront the Israelis should there be any decision in that direction. But there's never been any total silence to this. The authority has not been dormant, although I know there is a lot of criticism of the role of the Palestinian Authority. But as you know, the drive at the UN was led by the representative of the Palestinian Authority and the PLO. The drive at the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice and the Human Rights Council in Geneva, it's all been fueled and supported and endorsed and run by the representatives of the very Palestinian Authority. So I wouldn't say it has been dormant, it has given up to taking part in shielding Palestinians, but the means and abilities are not there. Moreover, there's been a lot of countries that have promised to give support to the Palestinian Authority, have not been able to do so, and have failed repeatedly. If you look at the case of funding, for example, there's been many Arab countries that have expressed interest to help. Europe itself has repeatedly said that it will support the Palestinian Authority so that it's not squeezed out of the scene, as it were, in terms of paying salaries, in terms of paying for Gaza's needs, in terms of covering expenses here and there, and in terms of maintaining the Palestinian Authority by supporting its very existence. But none of the above has been witnessed whatsoever, has not been solidified so far. The Palestinian Authority is dying out as we speak due to the scarcity of funds. Territory is being confiscated. Jerusalem is aching. The people, the Bedouins in their Madarib have been driven out. People in Masafir, the southern part of Hebron, have been driven out. And also, as we speak, settlers are taking up arms. The last decision, or in the last few hours, there's been a decision by Ben Gvir to arm Jerusalemites, settlers, in order to use the weapons against Palestinians. So with such magnitude of failure of the official lines of the international community, Palestinians at large are squeezing and maneuvering and trying their best to navigate a way they can continue to survive, maintain Palestinian presence, and push forward. Nevertheless, I would say, there's been a lot of indifference within the Palestinian scene. But I honestly and openly would say that it is time to heal the wounds. It's time to unite our lines. It's time to focus on the future. And it is time not to give America the leeway it wants to have by controlling the world and not allowing Israel to continue its operations without being, asked a single question, without any finger being pointed towards occupation as the full force behind the existence of the misery of the Palestinians. And if you realized in my opening, or maybe noticed in my opening remarks, rather, I had said quite openly that the end of occupation is the core of the objectives that should be in the heart and minds of many people around the world. As far as Iran is concerned, Fatah has not been seeing eye to eye with Iran over the last years, the role in the region and what have you. But certainly this American control of the region, the obsession of the American administration over oil and control of resources, and so also Israel's free hand are quite alarming. And we are in no way endorsing a war against anybody. And this is what people fail to realize. Palestinians are very down to earth. Palestinians are very resilient, are peace-loving, and wouldn't in any way like to see any nation around the world, regardless of their walks of life and religions, ever be subjected to any pain whatsoever. So I wouldn't say anybody is happy about any war to erupt, especially in the region and beyond.
Thank you, Doctor. You are talking about time to heal the wounds and to really work for the future. Ahmed
En relación
Aidi,
a sanar las
you've
heridas y
listened to
trabajar por
the
el
last remarks
futuro,
by Dr. Sabri,
Ahmed, pues has
and I'm sure,
escuchado
when it
los
comes to
comentarios del
talking
Dr.
to
Sabri. Estoy
us
seguro
in
que cuando
general
se
as
trata de hablar con
Palestinians, to
nosotros
say,
en general,
what
como
happened.
Just
palestinos,
a quick intervention. I want to hear your question, but the Spanish channel is now on the English channel. So if we could just get those in the proper order so that we can all hear your question to Ahmed and his response. Thank you.
Okay. So, it's one of the most sensitive issues is to ask a Palestinian, what do you think about what happened on October 7th? Was it right or was it wrong? It's also very sensitive to ask any Gazan, do you want to stay in Gaza despite what happened, or do you want to leave? So those are very sensitive questions, and I don't think it's easy to answer. But for you as a young Palestinian, a young activist in Gaza who has been witnessing the genocide, the suffering, the pain, the death, the destruction of everything around you, is it really you feel you have the ability to really heal the wounds? Do you have the ability to work for the future, for reconstruction, for all the plans they are talking about for Gaza? So give us something about your thoughts and where do you stand vis-a-vis all those issues?
تمام.
At the beginning, I think that this question was at the beginning of the war when, and I'd like here to share some of a story about my vision of the future. Beginning of the war, there was a big crisis. It's not like the genocide. It's how to convert the story. it was a real story. It's not there now. The world believes in what happened with Israel. They believe the narrative of the Israelis, and but the situation was completely different. The reality was altered, and this narrative was very difficult to change. So we started through a group of youth to start campaigns, lobbying and advocacy to provide some voluntary campaigns, relief, because we, as youth, we maintained one thing: it's how to understand. Uh, uh, so.
Mary is asking everybody to go to the English channel, the translator.
Now you can hear me on the English channel. Can you? Can anybody hear me on the English channel?
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear
I was
Yes.
translating all through,
تفضل يا
but you
أحمد.
weren't in the right channel. Sorry.
Mary, no, we heard you. I think it may be the Spanish that they're asking about. We were hearing your English translation.
Okay, so the Spanish should take
محتاج
relay
أعيد
from
من
me.
الأول ولا أكمل من
لا لا
لما
كمل.
Okay, so the things that we are looking for in the future are not easy things. Someone in the 20s who had hopes and aspirations before October 7th, we used to see life differently. We had different dreams. We had visions outside Gaza. I was living for 27 years in a big jail, not cannot even go to the West Bank or any Arab country or any neighboring country. So we always had this view that we need to communicate with the world. Where we always anticipated this, and we had this hope that we can move. And of course, but now with October 7th, things have changed. Things had become frozen. All dreams are destructed and demolished. No schools, no universities, no education, no development for us, no capacity building, no job opportunities. We're frustrated. Everything is frozen around us. And on a personal level, as Ahmed, I'm a Palestinian youth. I'm a lawyer. I'm an activist in many local or international organizations in terms of human rights and the youth. At the beginning of the war, I lost my home. I lost my office. I lost a big part of my family, my uncle, my many friends. In one of the initiatives, voluntary initiatives I was working with in providing relief services to people, the area was bombed, and they started calling each other. We started calling each other just to check who is still living, who was killed. And at the same time, we were also carrying the bodies, the deceased bodies. And then we discovered that one of the bodies was one of the volunteers who was with us, and he's one who was with us in this campaign. But regretfully, the body was completely distorted that we could not recognize him right away. One of the bodies was just limbs scattered here and there. Many humanitarian things we've been subject to, many things that were testing our humanity and testing our capacity to be resilient, to have this steadfastness, or is it just tested to us that can we take in all this? and the destruction that's happening, and so this is where do we stand in terms of humanity, international law. I used to believe in human rights and international conventions and international justice. But now, in the second, everything became the reality hit that this is all ink on paper, and these are just written convictions, but nothing is really implemented. And the big reality was that this is the big lie. These are just legislations on paper, in drawers, on shelves. Nothing is implemented with a double standard in life. When we would start as youth, like small initiatives to communicate with from outside Palestine, we used to see a little hope, maybe some financial support, but we went through many challenges. And now, when you talk about the role of the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, or any political movement in Gaza or outside Gaza, is there a clear role to any of them? No, nothing to relieve us. Did you have an input to mitigate, to alleviate the what we've been but regretfully, during the whole 3 years, we haven't seen any support. All were busy with their own political views. In Gaza went under grave genocide, and it's for people, for children, violating all convictions, all humanitarian issues. And it's only surviving because of the efforts of the youth in it. And it's only the belief that we have, the activists around the world, only this, that we're trying to overcome death, sadness. It's not because we have the superpower, or because we can accept all these traumas, but because we're thinking of the priority of life, of making life to people who are still living. Because if they wouldn't think in a way on how to start this initiative, victims numbers would be even more, and of course, let alone the instability.
Lots of questions actually in the chat, and some of the people already also will now. Catherine will take over the floor, but I'm sure there are questions that want actual experience. So people really, Ahmed, sometimes like to hear when you keep saying youth initiatives. If it weren't for the youth initiatives, but sometimes people want to listen for a small example to understand what you are talking about when you say youth initiatives. But I leave it to Catherine now, who can handle the chat questions and get back to all the panels. Thank you, Catherine.
Shukran, Katir, Hania, and all the great panelists thus far. We've got a number of questions, which is great. And actually, Sean O'Connor and I will be kind of helping facilitate those. We're going to be compiling some of them so we can get them together. And we have about equal amounts for Anne and Ahmed and Dr. Sabri. So we're going to kind of compile those together. And then we have kind of one large one that will be for the whole group. So I'm going to start with you, Ahmed, just because I don't want to lose you since you are in Gaza. There are two main questions for you, Ahmed. And as Hania said, those examples are really helpful as well. Basically, and I just want to say that I have been so honored to be connected and know you during these last 2 years of the genocide. We met when I was doing training with the youth advisory panel that you're a member of, and I've just seen your amazing leadership, stick-to-itness. You were wounded at one point and shot and showed me the bullet. Every day you were losing family members. Every day you were just surviving and having to move. And I just want to say that I just have extreme admiration for you, for your new bride. I know that you recently got married, and showing some hope for the future. So I just want to give you, show my heart and my just immense love for you and for everything that you've survived and gone through, and hope that it will get better. The two main questions for you, Ahmed, so far are what about the whole medical system in Gaza? We know it's been wiped out and destroyed. And just a question about whether medical supplies, equipment are getting in to restock or to rebuild some of the system that's so badly needed. And maybe also about people trying to get out to get to medical care that are not being allowed out by the Israelis. So that's the first one. And then the second one is, again, kind of your experience on the ground. Are you actually able, and your friends and colleagues able to see US troops and boots on the ground anywhere in Gaza? And what are you hearing about the Indonesian troops? We've heard that they haven't yet gone in, but what are you hearing about them possibly going in, and have you seen any other troops there? So those are your two main questions.
Regarding the first question, medical supplies that enter Gaza is minimal. It does not meet the needs, of course. Another thing, also medicines, medications, supplies, medical supplies are also limited in terms of they don't meet all types of diseases, especially chronic diseases or cancer and oncology medications. As for the infrastructure, medical infrastructure like hospitals and so on, at the beginning, all hospitals in Gaza were bombed, and big part of them were, some parts were rehabilitated, but they're not operational fully. I believe that the Ministry of Health is being 30. They're operational about 30%, which is not meeting the needs of people. Also, mobile hospitals also are not enough, and not all diseases are treated, and they don't have the capacity. Regarding transferring patients to outside Gaza, it's also very minimal, like 2 out of 100, 2% can travel out of Gaza to receive treatment. But this needs lots of complex procedures, and many have tried to leave Gaza, and they lost their lives before getting the permit to get out of Gaza to receive treatment. As for the second questions and the capacity of the initiatives, youth initiatives, and through my work, and there is some aid that's coming in, but again, not meeting the needs, because the need when international or the aids are provided by international agencies, once it's there will be other types of needs that need to be fulfilled. So it's a lengthy process. It's sometimes in winter. There's big need for blankets, for tents, for so on. When this in need is met, it will be summer. So we won't have them in winter in due time. And this is it. And the small initiatives have the capacity to go to access remote areas where international organizations could not access. So it was clear the study of need was needed to be done in the field and not through reports. And we saw that many things were not reported, were not addressed, and we had to try to promote the need for tents, for instance, or for sewage services. So we started to in the youth initiative to fulfill this, to make these tents, or to dig for the sewage, and so on. And we try to serve these marginalized communities. because they could not make it. At the end of the day, we needed to provide this direct service to the needy people and not to just add numbers to the beneficiaries. So it's the real need that we needed to tackle to the marginalized, and to do it in a directly with people, and because and so the youth they don't like to stay in offices. They like to be among people, to move around, to study them, to find alternatives. Another thing, since Catherine, you mentioned that I got married. Well, my marriage was postponed for 3 years. My wife, we've been engaged before the war had started, but of course, many impediments arose. My uncle was killed. Members of her family were killed as well. But we thought we need to continue. Life needs to continue, and that's why we decided to get married. I'm happy that I'm married now. This is part of the hope that I still have, that this is a reason to live for. I love my country. I love my people. I love life. So thank you. I thank my wife. I thank you, Catherine, for your support, for your belief, for your solidarity. You were always a source of hope to us through what you do, through your support. Thank you so much. You're muted, Catherine.
No, I'm just
Thanks so
saying
much,
thank
Ahmed.
you,
I think
Ahmed. Shukran and Alf Mubarak.
I think I'm taking over for the next batch of questions here very quick. We're now going to turn to Anne Wright. We have 2 questions for Anne. The first one, a very practical question, is how can activists from Africa join the Freedom Flotilla? I think we have someone here in the group that may be interested in doing so, but hopefully even more people that didn't ask the question from Africa or from other places that may be interested in joining. So any elaboration specifically on Africa, but also beyond that you might be able to give. And the other question coming from myself actually is about how we can strategize Mediterranean civil society organization solidarity, putting pressure on the Mediterranean governments to ensure that the Freedom Flotilla boats can get their way through. Is there work already underway there? Can we amplify these efforts somehow, etc.? So the word is over to you, Anne.
Yeah. Well, we welcome the applications from people from all over the world. And as I mentioned in my presentation, we had over 50 countries that were represented in 2025. I put in the chat the links to the 3 organizations that are sending boats. So you can make an application to any one of the 3. And once we get your application, we vet it. We go through it. We determine whether you would be a good candidate. We look at medical issues, we look at mobility issues, because being on the flotilla is not easy. It is a very, very difficult task. You're usually on a very small boat. You'll probably be seasick most of the time. You won't get a lot of sleep, and there will be danger, and anyway, it's tough. So we have to pick people that we think will survive this. Plus the fact you have to be willing to sign your own will. You have to give us a copy of your will in case you get killed. And this is that's the bottom line of it. If you are not willing to face the ultimate, then there are plenty of other ways that you can be very helpful to the Palestinians. But for these flotillas, because they are very, very dangerous, we have to have people recognizing that they could lose their lives on these things. So I'll put again the places where you can make applications. We have thousands, tens of thousands of people applying, so not everybody will get to go on these boats. That's the other thing. And then how do we work with countries in the Mediterranean region to try to open up their minds to what Palestine is enduring? And it's not just the flotilla, but it's all of our organizations that will have, like for the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, we have 16 national groups, and every one of the countries in the Mediterranean is represented. So we ask those local flotilla organizations to put pressure on their government to open up space, and working with other Palestine solidarity groups in those countries is the best way to mobilize, whether it's going to your parliament, going to the newspapers, trying to get as much publicity as possible for what is happening in Gaza and the West Bank, and in the diaspora and the Palestine refugee uh, places throughout the Middle East. So it's a cooperative effort, and yes, we, with the flotilla, at various times will be sending in the name of the flotillas specific letters to parliaments requesting that they treat their, make sure that their nationals that are on the flotilla are treated properly by international law, and that seldom happens. And particularly for the United States, the U.S. government never responds to any of our requests that they have consular access and hold accountable the state of Israel for what they're doing to their nationals on one level, but of course the Palestinians on another level. So it's very frustrating, but that's the name of the game. And when Palestine is enduring what it is, the least we can do is go through the frustrations of trying to hammer our countries on their complicity in the genocide and ethnic cleansing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anne. So our final group of questions are for Dr. Sabri, and then there's one really for any of you who'd like to pitch in and answer it. It's a kind of a very broad, big picture question. So Dr. Sabri, a couple of difficult ones. Basically, one is, and you may have seen these in the chat, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase. One is about the Board of Peace. And the fact that the PA supported it at the UN, while many of us were supporting a Uniting for Peace resolution that would have given the Palestinian much more involvement and inclusion in it, and would not have been, ruled by Trump and his board, which we know there are no Palestinians involved, and even, Netanyahu has been invited. So a little bit about why you think the PA supported it, and was that a good idea? As much as you could answer that, a lot of people, in the activist field are kind of wondering about that. It was surprising for us. The second one is also about President Abbas. And again, it's about kind of, you had really great advice. I'm sure there are a lot of people, leaders in Fatah over the years and currently, that have really, important views for the future. But a lot of the positions he's taking are very confusing to us and we feel detrimental to the Palestinian cause. And so just kind of a question about that broadly. So those are your two difficult ones. And then there's a broader question for all of you who'd like to respond, anyone who'd like to respond, which was, in general, our coalition and others have been meeting to really try to come up with a global strategy led by Palestinians and Palestinian voices and needs about how do we work best together, what should be our priorities right now, especially in this new world after the Board of Peace and after this new war on Iran by Israel and the US. So just some ideas of what you think should be strategic priorities and how you feel that we could be working better together, any suggestions you have as we really try to build a very strong civil society directed movement to end the occupation. As you said, Dr. Sabri, the most important core issue, but overall free Palestine and lead to equality and justice for everyone in the region.
Thank you again. Thank you again. If you allow me, I'll speak in Arabic. So those who are interested in switching to translation to English, I'll give you 10 seconds.
Thank you for these questions. Actually, I believe that the main it's to welcome and not to have this peace council is to coincide with our priorities. Our priority is that the Palestinian people have the right to live and to stop this crazy war against Gaza. And if you remember, one of the promises said that the war should stop on Gaza. He talked about this in many occasions, that he will stop the war on Gaza. And he said in many of his speeches that he believes in the fundamentality of having a new Middle East that is based on freedom, on justice, and on the right for people to live. There are many statements that he claimed, but as we say, well, experience is the evidence, and we had maybe high ceilings that he set, and then this is what we have now, and now we are in the midterm elections. So we believe that his fate is in your hands, American people. So Trump said that he will form the Peace Council, and we said in the draft proposal that what is called that the Trans initiative that's based on 20 points. We said we agree with whatever that leads to the reconstruction of Gaza, the stopping the killing, and the right for Palestinians to self-determination and the two-state solution. This was stipulated in the 20 points, and then it was approved by the UN Council. That was always the policy of the PLO, the right for self-determination and to have an independent state. And so the PLO and the PA have approved this the decision that it would be implemented. But then when we went into the details of this resolution and the implementation, we saw that the Peace Council is excluding Palestinians, people of this land, which is weird. And if you remember in his speech, he talked about the Peace Council and he did not refer to Gaza. Gaza, that was supposed to be the heart of this council. Accordingly, we felt very frustrated, and that what he preached about was never really materialized, and he was like inventing the old colonizing system into a new one, a modern one, and he placed himself as a president of this coalition, but not as a president of United States. He's looking for an alternative of the UN Council, and is looking for a number of countries to involve. And if you remember, there was the Greenland issue, and there was this big fragmentation between himself and Europe. But anyway, the U.S. administration has agreed with the PA on the Committee of Gaza Administrative Council, and its priorities were to open the Rafah crossing. So they brought in Palestinian police to work and officers to work on the Rafah crossing, and it was approved by the U.S. Government, and that the stamps on the passports would be stamped by Palestinian authorities. So things looked as if they were linked to what we have insisted on having to have it, that Israel withdraws from all Gaza area, that to guarantee that there is Palestinian people are in the way to self-determination, and of course the start of reconstruction of Gaza. That's what the committee had started to work in, and I believe it even achieved its ecstasy, that it started to materialize things, that it started to enter caravans to initiate everything. But it's clear that the main maestro here is Netanyahu, and I can say it loud and clear that we feel so frustrated about what was promised by Trump and what is being implemented now. This is a fluctuation. in their positions. As you see, it's Trump's personality. Impose tariff and then they withdraw it, and then do one thing and then does another. He just creates chaos and changing moods. But it's clear that he is looking for providing a shelter to Israeli and to expel Palestinians from their own lands. Although he said that he will never allow this annexing of West Bank to Israel, but now what's happening is the opposite. And he wants Gaza that it will be to Palestinians. But what's happening now is that the only thing that's clear is that they want Palestinians to be expelled from Palestine, and now it seems that even the boundaries for Gaza are changing according to what their zoning, the way they're creating these borders, and we know that Trump is the only one who can influence Netanyahu. And then, among all this, there was the Epstein files to use the blackmail against all personalities. So anyone who would open up his mouth will be reminded of Epstein files and will take a step back. And even if Trump was also impacted by the Epstein files, and this was the main topics on social media that which made Trump to encourage the U.S. to start the war against Iran. So there's this conflicting positions of the U.S. who had led this whole scene. And I say, sadly enough, the EU, the European position was always was shy. They did not take a step, whether they did not intervene courageously. And the word Palestine is now it's the most word that's seen in the Google server. But as Hania said, what do you think of the war on Iran? And I would like to say, I'm afraid that the war that's happening on Iran, it will become their priority and will set us in the shade and keep us in the shade, that we don't become priority. Nobody will remember us and will become forgotten. And that's why, through you, this is a golden opportunity to revive the memory of the catastrophe that's and the genocide that's happening against Palestinians, and unfortunately to answer the question, what is the global strategy that we can follow? And this strategy, and I'd like to answer for this question. It is based on our conviction that we should form the humans that can make the change. That maybe we could do more than politicians can do in order to express what people need, and to be recognized. To be recognized, it's not only about ambassadors, it's not about embassies, it's not about these embassies where they have raised flags. Recognition is it's a package of procedures and of mutual procedures, and I believe that through you, all these people, these communities need to be mobilized. It's not only a service for Palestinian people to recognize people. We need practical steps on the ground to have sovereignty, to have independence. I'd like to remind you on this occasion that all that was demolished in the Gaza Strip were projects and that were paid by you from your own pockets. From you contributed to the establishment of the Gaza airport, to the Gaza port, to the schools. You were the ones who paid for the pavement of streets, for the agriculture infrastructure, the all these humanitarian contributions, the job opportunities for the youth, to focus on innovation and creativity for the youth, and democracy. All this was completely distracted by Israel. No church, no mosque, no school, no hospital stayed up, because the whole doctrine of Israel is to dehumanization of Palestinians. This is their doctrine. They deal with us as we are less than humans. And one of them said, we need to bomb the Gaza Strip with a nuclear bomb. And the whole world said, oh, how can this happen? Why? Because Gaza is living in a situation as if they were bombed by 8 nuclear atomic bombs and not one. And in return, some said that Palestinians are human animals. We need to deal with them differently. And regretfully, the whole world accepted this and turned their backs. And Israel deals with Palestinians as less than humans. That's why I don't want you to stay behind the screen and just watch us.
Thank you. Shukran, Dr. Sabri. Much appreciated for your answer and for your, vision of strategy, which I think many of us would agree with. We really appreciate it. Anne or Ahmed, do you have a very short, concise part of that last question? And then I'm going to turn it over to Rick Jones, who's going to do a wrap up and tell us some more next steps and things that people can act on, which is, as we've heard, the most important thing. We believe that as well. Civil society and people on the ground are going to need to drive this. We're going to be a little bit over, but I think this has been, really important, everything we've heard. So Anne and Ahmed, any short answers to that? And then Rick, go ahead.
If I could just briefly say, we need a global uprising, and that is actually the name of a citizen solidarity worldwide event, the global uprising. So we have to do whatever we can in our communities, in our ports, and our parliaments to really focus attention on Gaza and the West Bank. Thank you.
Ahmed, any last words on the question about how do we make a better strategy? Any priorities that we should be working on worldwide that you in Gaza feel are really important? Anything you'd like to add to that?
Thank you. Thank you very much for this rich meeting. Just to add to all that was said regarding the technocrat committee that stemmed from Gaza. It's a committee. It's formed from citizens of Gaza, but they're completely they're not living the real situation. They have scientific backgrounds, but all of them did not live the war in Gaza. They did not live in the tents. They weren't part of the emergency situation we're living in. So it is just it's managed from offices. As for the policy of the crossing that Dr. Sabri Saidam had talked about, yes, the passports are stamped by Palestinian stamp, but all other procedures done then by Israel, the Israeli counterparts. And the first transfer the batch that happened from Gaza to Egypt were subject to many violations, to brutal procedures, and this is in the Egyptian side. And I don't want to say that this is our fault as Palestinians, but it's because they wanted to please the Israelis, the Israeli hegemony. So any global strategy for the recovery of Gaza, I hope that you take into consideration or into account the opinion of the youth. They were in the operating rooms in Gaza. They were the ones who lived it on the grounds, and they were the link, the real link in this crisis. So they were again the real operations room in the crisis. So I hope for the recovery of Gaza, the youth should be involved, following their policies and so on, not only through theory and theories in books. And let's learn from the experiences, just as happened in the world wars, where the where different opinions were there, but they never made it to real recovery. So that's why I wish that there will be a new Palestinian state, and that the role of youth would be highlighted. We have hopes, we have aspirations. Thank you for your support, for your belief in us, and we hope that peace prevails around the world, especially us in Gaza. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Catherine, and thank you to all of our speakers, Dr. Sabri, Ahmed, and Anne, for your testimony, your analysis, and your action and your activism. We very much appreciate that. As a brief summary, I think we heard the central issue at stake here is the occupation. Dr. Sabri was very clear that ending the occupation is central, stopping the genocide, to whatever actions we take. And there is actually a resolution in the United Nations, ES 10 from September 18th, 2024, that demands this be put in place. It has not been enacted. It was voted on, overwhelmingly supported, and we need to hold the countries accountable to actually put that in place. Ahmed was very clear about the hard reality that international law and the international institutions are not being held accountable, are not holding it up, and are really just there on paper. At the same time, he clearly articulated young people in Gaza are recording historical memory. They are distributing, they're repairing the tents, they're digging trenches, they're digging latrines. They are active and engaged. They are not victims. And if all of us from outside of Gaza can see that, how can we not act on their behalf and with them? How can we not stand up in solidarity? And we heard clearly from Anne Wright, the Samud Flotilla is a clear opportunity for action, for expressing our solidarity. And we put in the chat ways that you can get connected to the Samud Flotilla, that you can support the flotilla, that you can be part of the flotilla. And we would encourage everybody to do that. It was also put in the chat ways to directly support Ahmed and his community. And we would encourage you to do that as well. As part of the Global Solidarity for Peace in Palestine, we are encouraging people to prepare and organize for a massive global march on May 1st. That's being organized on welfare, not weapons. Welfare in the sense of well-being for all people and justice for all people, not weapons. And so please pay attention to what's out there on the internet. It will become more publicized in April for a march on May 1st. Secondly, in encouraging people to continue to pressure the United Nations, I would like to remind everybody that Colombia, which has been very outspoken against the genocide and for the Uniting for Peace proposal, is now on the United Nations Security Council, supporting the government of Colombia in that role to continue to press for Uniting for Peace proposal, for the United Nations to intervene, is something that we can also do globally. And finally, Ahmed was talking about the need for for Palestinians to be able to participate in this. As the Global Solidarity for Peace in Palestine, we are supporting the liberation of all political prisoners, but particularly Marwan Barghouti, as a means to unite Palestinians and to ensure that they have a voice in any process that affects them, and to build that sovereignty for a real lasting peace based on justice. And so we would like to encourage all of you to look on the internet, to free Marwan Barghouti and freeing all Palestinian prisoners as part of that process. So thank you very much for your participation today, and please follow up, take action, and continue to build this coalition in this international network. Thank you all so much for being here.
Shukran, ma salama, everyone.
يعطيكم العافية وشكرا كثير للجميع.
Free Palestine.
إن شاء الله يا رب.
شكرا لكم، يعطيكم العافية.
شكرا كثير، مع السلامة.
الله يخليك. See you soon إن شاء الله. All the best.
Free
شكرا لكل
Palestine.
المتدخلين.
شكرا لك.
Hold.